Yo, it's Guido coming at you with a Tactics Talk. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate your support of the channel as always. I hope you have a fantastic day. I will endeavor to do the same. Got a nice coffee. Love it. All right. Game theory, critical terrain, etc. Had some great conversations spurred by my video last week talking about game theory, Boyd, and attitude and World of Tanks. That had several different offshoots. I want to concentrate on one specifically that I had with Bitwise that got me thinking a little bit more about this. And I thought I had a great example of that here. We're going to actually talk about another example of it in air-to-air combat as we go. So, what Bitwise said is, I can't count it. Possibly exists possibilities. I think all 30 players in the match want to win, but you get 30 people with 30 ideas. All you can do is play your best. The score takes care of itself. I think it all started when he was talking to Trooper about theory of critical terrain. So that's good, and it was Bitwise and 7th Cav Trooper who brought this up initially for the first video as they were discussing this game theory. And the critical terrain specifically is something I talk about. And remembered what Boyd said about terrain. You fight the GD enemy, not the terrain. I don't know what that means, but it sounds cool. I don't know how we ended up on zero-sum games, but it turned into an interesting video, and I do appreciate that. So then James came in and said, the video titled "Go Purple Places, Do Purple Things" was a real eye-opener. That vid is why sometimes take the wrong tank to the right place. It's another variation of the military theme. It's better to have a rifle platoon at the right place at the right time than an armored division in the wrong road on the wrong day. I answered with, Boyd has an easier time making that statement in the 3D environment of air-to-air combat. Other than terra firma and perhaps max altitudes, there isn't any terrain. But the overarching point of fight the enemy is correct. It's fine to take a strong position, but if the enemy isn't there, it's not useful. This gets into matches like we have right here, which is the Valley of the Noobs, Lakeville. Probably one of the easiest ones really to talk about this on. Still, understanding where a strong position is can keep the enemy from taking it or using it against you, so critical terrain is important, but it doesn't exist in a vacuum. Bitwise came back and said, maneuver warfare was about the 3D environment. I don't disagree. The quote was from Patterns of Conflict, a discourse on winning and losing. In the briefing, Boyd examines historical battles from Sun Tzu to see how many of his ideas still make sense. He says, quote, I want to drive that home. I'll show you when you make that mistake. When you begin to think that terrain is the most important thing, you're going to make some very serious mistakes. Terrain doesn't fight wars. Machines don't fight wars. People do it, and they use their minds. Agreed. In that context, using the terrain as a medium through which you are going to maneuver in order to gain leverage on his force. There you go. So we're taught if we're going backwards, we've lost initiative. That's not true. As long as you've got him playing your game rather than playing his game, and that's very Sun Tzu right there. You have the initiative, and I don't care which direction you're going in. I would agree with that. But my answer to Bitwise was, I'm not saying terrain is the most important thing. I'm saying there is critical terrain, and I think that's what we're all in violent agreement right there. So this is not a case of me trying to flex or come out on top or anything like that. We're all, I think, basically saying the same thing, and I think this game illustrates this pretty well right here. So the point is, when I say something like critical terrain, to try to narrow this very large discussion into a specific concept, which I think extrapolates out to other concepts as well. The baseline is that none of these things exist in a vacuum, which is to say that you can't prioritize X, Y, or Z and then you're going to win. And that's the whole game theory. Like, what are your goals? What are you trying to do? What is the thing that brings a win? Let me just back up and say that most of the context in which I'm talking about here is in regards to winning the match. And there are many rabbit holes in I want to do damage. I have other priorities. I'm trying to do a mission. Note all those are noted. That's the not in a vacuum piece, I think, or parts of that anyway. So it is quite complicated, I think, in terms of everything you can do in this game. But we're going to stick to winning and talking about critical terrain as best we can. Obviously, we're not in a vacuum here. So it's other things are going to creep in at all times. All right. So critical terrain then. Let's talk about that a little bit. I say, Guido says, the critical terrain on this map is the city. There's a caveat here that I don't know how it's going to play out in the valley based on the changes. So there's every possibility that changes or becomes a little bit less critical. But I like this map also because the middle isn't unimportant. It is pretty important. And the valley isn't unimportant. It is pretty important. It may actually become more important later. But as a general rule, he who wins the city wins, provided everything else hasn't gone pear-shaped for him. Okay, let's just make that assumption right up front. If you disagree with that, there's not a lot I can do. If you feel like there's different critical terrain on the map, then the rest of the discussion I think is still valid. Okay, so let's take it in terms of air-to-air combat because that kind of came up, critical terrain. And I said, well, there's no real critical terrain other than terra firma, the ground, or potentially altitude that you can't use, right? There's a certain altitude at which you no longer can fly or your airplane can't perform. So we'll just say given two similar capability or exactly the same airplanes. When you come to the merge in, say, two F-15s, and you say, all right, I'm all about critical terrain. So I know altitude as I'm coming to the merge. I know that altitude is my friend because if I can get altitude, then that gives me some exclusive turning room on the guy down there. And because we live on Earth and we have 1G, there's extra capability for me to get my nose down, vice him getting his nose up to meet me. So when I come to the merge, I go, ooh, I like critical terrain. Guido said, take the critical terrain. I know that being higher than the other guy is good. So every time I come to the merge, I'm going to go up. Every time I go to Lakeville, I'm going to go to the city. Every time I go to Lakeville, I'm going to go to the valley because I believe that's critical terrain. Every time I'm on blah, blah map, I'm going to go to X. So that's a misuse of the idea of critical terrain. Because, as an example in air combat, if I'm this guy and I come to the merge like this with a bunch of room below, and I go, ooh, I know critical terrain is going up. I need to get that up critical terrain, and I just go up. Well, I've just given a bunch of exclusive turning room to this guy down here. So what he's going to do is it's hard to see because I don't have a lot of camera angle here for you, but now he's going to come up inside me, right? Now he's got a shot because I gave up this. The situation at the merge, the situation as everybody deploys on the map is not favorable to me. I didn't get below him where I can use the exclusive turning room, or at least neutral where it's just whoever flies a better vertical fight, right? I got here like this and I go, herder, critical terrain is up, off I go. So the critical terrain doesn't exist in a vacuum. It depends on what the enemy team does, or the enemy airplane in the case of air-to-air combat. We don't really... I was thinking about this as I was coming up with this video idea and what I was going to talk about. I said, there sort of is a merge in World of Tanks. It's not as crisp as two airplanes meeting. And frankly, air combat is almost never two aircraft meeting. I mean, you could be merging with 3 or 4, and then your options are very difficult to suss out. We have 15 tanks on each side, but there is kind of a merge. There is a point at which you start to get SA on where the enemy tanks are going. You come in with some assumptions about where you think they're going to go. Let me just address something before I get on with that. I am yapping in chat right there, which I can't bring up. I hate on the replays. I can't do that. The Hellcat's saying loss. I say it's going to be rough, and then I cry ass and I say, yeah, this is over. And honestly, many times, I'm not even going to put a number on it, many times this is bad. And let's stop and say why. But also, let's take a quick look at and say why not. All right? The assumption I have coming in here is the Basante and the Skoda and the Chimera are going to come into the city. Maybe not the Chimera, but I really expect the Skoda and the Basante. We already know, as these two teams are merging, that the Basante has made a different choice. So he has changed the calculus of what the possibilities are in the city by going to the valley. Our 8.8 is in the valley. Nah, it's okay. Couple mediums. We don't have a whole lot of tanks over there, although one of our tier 8 heavies went into the valley. That hurts our ability in the city. And if I turn around and look at this, I go, ouch. At least the super is kind of coming up, and here comes the 112 bag of poo. Why is Pooh such a name right now? I got another video with somebody named Pooh. You may have already seen it. So as we come to the merge, I'm starting to gather SA. Is the guy higher than me, lower than me? Have they invested in the critical terrain? Can I use the critical terrain? Can I make an advantage over here in the city? Or do I have to change what's going on? So we react then to the battle as best we can. So the Hellcat's not too happy. Note that I don't immediately go to this corner right here. I just really don't have the tank for that, to get here and go, hey, let's challenge a fast dude. I'm going to eat a shot more than likely. My friends are not nearby. I don't want to get jumped all over. So I'm going to be very careful. I've already changed my plan in the city on the way in based on what my team has done deployment-wise and based on what I know about their team. And all of a sudden, I see another heavy over there. They have the Basante. Actually, that's a medium. I can't remember which one it is. We'll see it in just a minute, potentially. So we'll kind of hang out here. And I said, hey, if they're even close to competent, it's bad for us, right? So just talk pretty quickly about the texting right there. I think it's perfectly valid to say, look, this is going to be pretty tough. Let's be careful in this city would have been a better way for me to say it right there. I don't want to drive in on him. He moved. Now I'll back out. And I know things are getting a little rough right here, right? We got me, a Chaffee, a Buggy, a Super, and a 112. And that's not too bad. There's 2 tier 8s here. For the moment, we're not going to run off and run away. Notice the Super Hellcat that was crying is, and I was crying, to be fair, is blasting through the open area. I mean, if you're going to make comments like that, and this applies to me too, at least try to play well and not do silly things. I think he actually gets away with it potentially right here. So these guys are pushing in, and it looks like the Chimera and the Skoda. So 2 of the tier 8s I was worried about are in the city. Also, it's important to note I am in a tier 6 medium. This is a bummer. I don't quite get a pen there. Now I'm backing out of this thing, and I got to run away. Was a little bit surprised that Chaffee went up. I think he probably should have got out of there. But we're holding for the moment, right? So the critical terrain, the city, that's where I went. I'm fighting here, but I've already got in the back of my mind that we are probably going to have to get out of here at some point. I would love for this team right now, maybe the 112 and the Super, do some good work, and we can knock down these 2 8s. And then with our 2 8s still alive, that would be fantastic. But those are 2 really good tanks compared to the ones that we have. It's not the Impossible Dream. That just plain old misses. That's a bummer. It's not the Impossible Dream, but it's becoming a little bit less likely as we lose our 112. So I note that, and things are not looking good. We're doing okay in the valley. It looks like they only brought a couple tanks, plus the Artie is probably doing its thing over there. The center is completely wide open, so the enemy owns the center. I would imagine the 12T is over there. In fact, now I'm lit, so I'm betting he is. Or at least say a medium like the Comet or something with decent view range right there. And now I'm just trying to get out of here, right? My entire intention now is to drive all the way back to the cap and try to hold. There goes the Buggy. The Super's in trouble, and I am out of here. Now we can have a discussion, I think, about whether I was early or late. Maybe slightly early. On the one hand, I did leave the Super to his devices, but I think more than likely I die in there if I stay. We actually find the 12T, so I was not surprised to see him right there. I am running out of time to get away as they're coming in behind me. I didn't want to get hit by something with the 12T lighting me up, but then he gets pushed out by the Super Hellcat and then kind of dives down into the water. A couple shots on him, and then we'll head out. For the moment, the EZ8 is doing the canary in the coal mine thing, and I have transitioned, and this is what we discussed quite a bit, especially down in the comments. I am starting to transition to farming mode with the intention that if I can farm well enough and long enough and remain alive and potentially keep some of my buddies alive back here, maybe we knock these guys down. We've lost the critical terrain, right? We have kind of lost the valley. We've lost our 3, did we? No, the 3Y is backed up actually, so he's run away. All right, and we're now in a corner. This is a bad situation for teams on World of Tanks, but if you notice, while we're down 2,394 hit points, we're not down that many tanks. And this is where it becomes very dangerous then for the purple team to push in on a well-defended cap. So I'm going to head back here. We're going to get into this position I know of. Knock a couple trees down, just maybe get a little more camo at different angles, potentially, maybe, up, hopefully. The EZ8 dies. We'll turn back around here. And now I will give a shout out as you watch the rest of this game develop. The 8.8, the Jagdtiger 8.8 has a big game and does a really nice job. The 29 is watching, and we got a Basante, a Skoda T56, a Su-130. I mean, we've got a lot of really good tanks on the enemy team, and we're kind of beat up. All right? So let's watch this as it develops. Try to take a shot on this guy. It doesn't even go anywhere. I think I get lit. But yeah, I do get lit doing that. So we're going to take a shot there. I sort of learned something about this position. I'm glad that didn't hit me. Sort of learned something about this position here. Trying to keep them lit as well. And unfortunately, now that guy comes around the corner. Now I'm just perma-lit. I think it's about here or maybe soon. No, not quite yet. I believe I eat a shot right here, trying to get a shot on the WZ. You can actually back up, crawl up the wall there, and get behind the rock. I forgot about this. I'm going to back up this way. My first shot on this guy, perhaps. Got lit doing that. Boom. Already comes in. Their Basante is up on that high spot. That's one of the changes. He actually killed the M3Y right there, which was a bit surprising. Shot across that way. Now the M3Y has given me a little bit of armor, so I'm going to come in here and see if I can't work on this Hellcat. It'd be nice if I could kill him, but I don't think I'm going to. And I do eat a shot here. There we go, yep. 2 shots, so nearly killed. Look at that, Basante actually got a shot on me from where he was. Alright, so that position now where he was, they can shoot across right there. That's pretty wicked. But we're doing okay. We're doing okay. We've actually brought the hit points back. The enemy team was a little bit foolish in the way they pushed. And the 8.8 is doing that DPM thing. Pretty good pen, lots of DPM. We're not really threatened as far as being completely overrun. They're having a little bit of hard time pushing in. Honestly, if the Basante would have just come at us, I think we'd probably die pretty quickly right here. So you can watch the chat. Everyone's sort of yelling at each other. I often, at this point of the game, I don't have time for all that. I'll whine and cry early, and then I'm too busy trying to last as long as I can. But I'm starting now to think that maybe we are going to be able to claw this one back. All right, so we've lived long enough. We've done enough here in defense. It's starting to look like this is definitely a possibility. We'll come up here, see if we can find a guy. Where's the super? I did get lit. Okay, we'll back out. I'm going to go right back up to here. They do have 2 artillery. I want to make any artillery shots as difficult as possible. It's possible, depending on where they are, they might actually be able to put a shot on me. Now I see the Basante pushing down. They get the 304. That's unfortunate. Come up here for a second. They kill the T-29. I really should have pushed immediately. And I'm thinking, all right, well, we have to deal with the guys in the valley before the guys, whatever is over on the other side. I'm assuming it's the Su-130. Actually, he's dead, sorry. The Super Hellcat. So there's 3 of them here, and it's only the Super Hellcat behind us. So we shut down this push with the 8.8 doing some yeoman's work right there. I was late. I should have got moving much earlier. My assessment of the situation was late and not very good. And unfortunately, I'm going to leave this guy alive. I'm glad I moved out and didn't take that last shot. I was thinking about standing in, and then I missed. So I needed to make a nice, calm shot on that. That was unfortunate. I was sort of expecting to eat the artillery shots. 8.8 pushes in on these guys, and now we've got him. All of a sudden, the Super Hellcat's coming in. I'm going to back. I'm like, can I get there before he gets by me? Just get the back edge of him, and he is done. So the 8.8 is going to get around 3,000 damage, maybe slightly more. He gets 6 or 7 kills, and we end up winning this thing. We'll just let it go while I talk here. So there's some more game theory, and specifically the critical terrain discussion, and that was brought up multiple times, that you have to fight the battle. I thought this battle was a great example of that. I went to where generally I figured the critical terrain was. I did not go there believing that my Tier 6 tank was going to get up front and start punching their Tier 8s in the face and win the game. I will be honest with you, that was kind of my mindset for many, many years. So there's a little bit left over from that. I used to go to those sides and die trying. I learned to be pretty good with getting damage out of even lower tier tanks, tanks that are 2 tiers down. But I think I'm a lot better now on assessing and getting out. We can have an argument about whether I was early or late on that. I think it was pretty good timing. Here comes the Hummel. Thank goodness he just misses me. I thought that one was pretty good time. I kept my boats, kept my tank alive, got back there, and while I didn't chip in a whole bunch of... That was pretty funny, actually. Of all the places he could be, that was not the one I expected him to be in, but if you look at how we beat their valley push, it's not that unreasonable that he moved over there. So I just sat there rocking back and forth and absolutely ate that shot. I'm glad he didn't kill me. So I'll click on where he was, just so the 8.8 knows. That's where the shot came from. It won't move in here. So I went to the critical terrain. I did what I could there. Paid attention. As we got to the merge, I took a look at what everybody's energy state was, what their various altitudes were, etc., just to kind of tie it back into the air-to-air combat thing. Where am I at this merge? Where am I in relation to all these other tanks that are on the battlefield right here? And what was my best move from there? At that point, heading back, giving up the critical terrain, because that's the fight we had, right? You fight the enemy, not the GD terrain. But I did go back and I took a piece of terrain that I knew I could work, that I knew the tank would be decent at, that would add a different angle for the team, that would give a little bit of spotting. It would give options on shooting guys on the side if they came around the corner, all of those things. The 8.8 was already sitting up against the wall. There was no real reason for me to go there. I could do some better work back where I was. So you start to see how all of those things then are interrelated. That's pretty much all I've got, guys. We'll let you see the final thing right here. Plus I think we want to hear an Angel get its wings. We already have one artillery down. Really clawed it back. Shout out to Praetorian VI from Clan CB, who did a really nice job right there. A not shout out to me for complaining about winning and how it was going to be tough. We can talk about that a little bit, I guess. I think that it's fine to note that, hey, this is not a great deployment. And one of the reasons I do that kind of thing is just to get people, hopefully, to think about, yeah, that doesn't look right. That's not a great deployment right there. Look at this guy comes around here. Good on him. Oh, yeah. I like the Angel song. I like the Angel song at the end. But with the typing in and complaining, try to keep it away from the accusations and recriminations and that kind of stuff, and keep it more constructive. Like, hey, this is not a great deployment. We're going to have to play this carefully. You know, hey, one of our heavies is over in the valley. Let's be careful in the city. Whatever along those lines. There have been CCs in the past, guys that have made content as well, really good players, who really did that quite a bit and took that to somewhat of an art form. I think it was Talgrim, name dropping. I'm not sure if it was Talgrim, but so there were some guys out there who were known for kind of just a couple sentences, say a little bit of organization. It's not like they were taking control of the map or the team or anything, but just sort of, hey, let's try to cajole people into going into the right place right there. And it ended up working out on this one. So I thought this was a great example of that. Critical terrain didn't work out. Fight the enemy, right? Fight the game you have, not the one that you want. All right, I think we're done now. Let me know what you think down there in the comments. That's all I've got. We will see ya.